Okay, this is video 2 for mathematical reasoning, and then this one we're going to do deductive reasoning. So in deductive reasoning, we use variables to prove something. Okay. First step you're going to do when you're doing deductive reasoning is define your variables. Super important to do this and to do it well. So we can define even numbers as 2n, where n is any natural number. We can define odd numbers as 2n minus 1, again, where n is any natural number. If we have consecutive integers, that would be n plus 1, n plus 2, etc. Or it might start with n minus 1. The next one after that would be n. The next one after that would be n plus 1. And then n plus 2, etc. Or it could start with n minus 3. The next one after that would be n minus 2. Then n minus 1. And then n, and so on. Just wherever it starts, the next one adds an extra number to it. In this case, n is an integer to begin with. Okay? So the next thing we need to really talk about are what are integers, because n is going to be a part of something, right? I stands for integer. So that could be negative. It includes 0, and so on. No decimals. If it's a whole number, let me do this differently, sorry. If it's a whole number, then it starts at 0. If it is a natural number, and that's what we've been dealing with a lot, naturally we start counting at 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay? You must define n as something. Okay? If n's not going to be, if n's specific number, you can also say that n is like, n is less than 2 and greater than negative 5, right? So you define n. Okay. If we define it as consecutive even numbers, then n is a part of the natural numbers. And the first one is going to be 2n plus 2. Oh, yep. 2n plus 4, etc. Or you could write it as 2n plus 1, 2n plus 2, etc. If this part does not make sense to you, please do not pay attention to it. Okay. If we're looking at consecutive odd numbers, again, n is part of the natural numbers. 2n minus 1, 2n plus 1, 2n plus 3, etc. Okay? Okay. From there, you're just using logic to walk you through the proof, okay? After you've defined, your variable, then write your proof. This is the logic piece, okay? Be sure that you're using good mathematical logic. So if you add something to one side, you add it to the other side of the equation. You divide one side of the equation, you divide the whole other side of the equation. Okay? Good math skills there. All right. Now, when you're asked to prove something, they might ask you that something is divisible by something or a multiple of something. Okay? If that's the truth, then every term on a side is divisible or a multiple of that number. And I'll show you what I mean by that. Any variable, and we'll just call it x for now, that is multiplied by a number. Whoa, I don't know what I just wrote. Number is divisible by that number. So 6x is divisible by 6. 2x is divisible by 2. It should be noted that any number that is divisible by 2 is even. If it is not, then it is odd. Exception to this, of course, would be 0. It's just a special number. Now, if there are terms in your answer, like 6x plus 3, each term must be divisible. So 6x plus 3 is divisible by 3 because 6x is divisible by 3 and 3 is divisible by 3. It is not divisible by 6 because 6x is divisible by 6, but 3 is not divisible by 6. Sorry. Therefore, the whole thing is not true. Cannot be divided by 6. Okay. Also, if something's outside of the bracket, so if you have, for instance, 4 times x plus 1, this whole thing is divisible by 4. Divisible by 4. Because remember, you're going to multiply this by each term. So this becomes 4x plus 4. So each term is then divisible by 4. Okay? Okay. Again, this is like the last one where a lot of this is just take it step by step. When you're trying to prove something, what are they doing for each line? And is it true or false? Are they doing it properly? Are you defining it properly? Are you dividing both sides by 2? Are you adding 2 to each side? Whatever you're doing, you're making sure that it's done properly. Yeah.